second guest speaker for today is Dr. Joseph Mcmillan, who is one of our physics and astronomy professors at our university. He's been teaching for over 10 years and has received his BHc in astrophysics from St. Mary's U, which is in Halifax, and moved to Kingston, Ontario for his MSc and PhD from Queen's, and he joined our Ontario Tech team in 2007, and he's frequently found within our first year courses. So here's Mr.
Thank you very much, Alex, for the introduction. And I'm happy to be here today. I want to thank the organizers and Actis for inviting me along, because I think it's a really important thing to get students together, excuse me, for to start the year like this, because it's going to be such a weird year, especially from my perspective, when I'm so used to teaching to classes that are 250 students in size. To have to do it online, it's going to be a big change. And so I think programs like this and events like this are really going to help bring back the social aspect of teaching. I'm not going to talk, I think, as long as Osama, even though it's my job is to talk. I have a couple things to say, but then I'd really, like to answer as many questions as I can, both here and at the Q&A session at the end of the panel. So let me start out with something that I think doesn't get said quite enough, which is that we are in the middle of a pandemic, and so certainly from my perspective as a professor, I am not holding students to the same kind of expectations that I would in a regular year. When we closed the university down in the winter term, it was a huge shift, and it was really stressful. And so I'm by no means expecting the fall to be that different. And so I really want to stress that we're still in a pandemic. Things are still crazy. I've been working all summer to put really good courses together, but I also hope that students will remember that their professors are also doing their pandemic best here. So keep that in mind, right? We certainly will have different expectations for students, and I'm hoping that you guys will be okay, and your professors, if if they don't respond right away, keep in mind they're trying to figure out the best way to send their kids to school and that sort of thing. So that's what I want to start out with saying. It is still pandemic times, but let me tell you a little bit about how I'm approaching my courses. In every course, every program will be different. I noticed in the chat everyone was putting their programs up. I didn't see anybody in physics, and that's okay. We have a very small program. I wasn't really expecting anybody, but every course will be a little bit different. But for me, when we're doing an online course, what I want to do really is offload as much of the content delivery as possible to things like videos and reading, because that's the kind of thing that I don't really want to do in the classroom anyway. I mean, even before the pandemic, I really wanted to do as much of a flipped classroom as possible, where I would ask students to read about things before coming in, and then we would just focus on the classroom about understanding the concepts and making sure that we can learn from each other and doing examples and going over problems, that sort of thing. And so I want to do the same thing with online courses. So I've been working this summer on making a bunch of videos that are sort of introduction to different concepts in physics. And so that's what I'm going to give to my students, but I'm still going to have some synchronous class sessions, by which I mean we'll have regularly scheduled classes still. And this isn't true for all of the different courses you'll have. Some of them might be purely asynchronous, where all you'll do is sort of offline kind of stuff and not have regular meetings. But I want to continue doing that, because I think having students get together, even if it's online, is really crucial to learning subjects like physics. And so when we come into the classroom, we'll be using Google Meet or maybe Kaltura, which is another video thing. And I'll talk a little bit more about technology in a second. I want to make sure that students have a chance to think about physics deeply, talk about physics with their friends, with their peers, with their fellow classmates, and actually see me go over examples carefully. So I'm going to try to do all of that, and I'm hoping it's not too ambitious, that I'll be able to do a good job by my students. And then, so the third thing I wanted to mention is just a little bit of advice coming in for the fall. And I'll be honest, like, this is the first time I'm going to purposefully teach an online semester at school. I'm always very much a face-to-face kind of proponent. I really like interacting with students. I find that's very rewarding. And so I have no idea how it's going to go, right? I'm very nervous about my first day of class. I'm very nervous about the term. And so I thought I would at least give some advice, what I think is, the best way to approach these courses. And so I just want to start with the very first thing. And I should mention too that the first two pieces of advice here are by no means specific for online stuff. The first piece of advice is that you should ask for help when you need it. And this is crucial, and this is something that took me a long time to learn, and that's that you can't learn everything on your own, right? That's why I'm here, that's why the university is here, that's why your peers are there, so that you can get the help when you need it, so that you're in an environment where you can actually, learn in a nice linear sort of way. When you don't have to stumble over everything, you can get that help when you need it. So my first piece of advice is to ask questions. Ask your professor, ask your teaching assistants, ask your fellow classmates, ask anybody you can for that help when you need it. And the university has done a really good job really providing that resources for getting help, for everything from the Student Learning Center to just having a really open and engaging set of faculty, of professors at the school. We have the resources to get you that help. You just have to make sure you can ask for it when you need it. And sometimes it's really hard. It was really hard for me to do that. So that's my first advice. My second is, excuse me, sorry, I had to cough there. My second piece of advice is about making a schedule for yourself. It was one of the things I found back when we closed the campus in the winter, is that it was really difficult for my students and me to actually make it to class on time and do the work, because all of a sudden we were at home, we were surrounded by family and not our university, not our campus. It's difficult in that environment sometimes to learn. I think Osama made some really good points about that, about having a really good environment for you to learn in. And I think one of the ways that you can really help that with that is to make yourself a good daily schedule. And stick to it as much as possible. When are you going to attend class? When are you going to work on this particular project? When are you going to work on that assignment? And so on. And I think it's really critical to plan your time well. I know that earlier we were talking about the big changes going from high school to university in terms of grades. One of the reasons I think why people see that shift is just because, well, sort of two reasons. One is that university, so the material at university is not necessarily a lot more difficult than high school. And again, speaking sort of from the physics perspective, which nobody here really cares about, but I'll say it anyway, as it's probably true in other programs. The material in physics is not that much more advanced than what you might see in high school. The real difference instead is the workload, the amount of work that not just me, but all of your other professors pile on you. It really can catch up to you really quickly if you don't stay on top of it. And the other thing about university too is that you're expected to be so much more independent than high school. You have to meet the deadlines. You have to accept the consequences for not meeting deadlines or not doing the work. And so that onus is on you to really do it. So I think one of the best things you can do is come up with a schedule for yourself, a weekly schedule to block off the time that you need. And then my third piece of advice is sort of specific to having an online environment, and it's new for me. I'm pretty nervous about using all of the tools. I'm not even an expert at using Zoom, which we're using here, so I'm nervous about using all these tools. And so I've been using the summer to get familiar with everything. And so I recommend that you do that too. Right? Take a look at Canvas, which is our learning management system. Basically, all of your course information is going to be on this one particular website. Make sure you understand where everything is located, what everything you can do there, because there's a lot of really cool features that'll help you get in contact with your professor or other students. And so dig around, play around with all of the new technology they'll be expected to use. They're tools, and so it's it's really on you, and it's important for you to learn how to use those tools. And so some of them are new. In fact, Canvas is going to be a brand new LMS for all students, not just for incoming first-year students. So get used to those tools, play around with them. Because that's where all of the help is really going to be found. That is pretty much all I wanted to say. I know I've now rambled on a little bit more, but feel free to ask me some questions in the chat if you like, or you can come on the mic and ask there as well. And I'm happy to answer. All right, so we've got some questions coming in already. That's good. When should we get textbooks? I mean, soon. It depends on where you're getting them from. You can order them from our university's bookstore, or you can get them from Amazon or from wherever, Chapters, whatever. Unlike a lot of your professors, right? And so maybe you shouldn't take my advice here to heart, but my feeling is that until September 8th, whenever we start classes, your time is your own, right? And unless you really are nervous about something, I don't recommend, getting an early start. I want you to relax, have fun, blow off steam if you're nervous. When September hits, then you can start buckling down and getting to work. And until then, I kind of want you to have fun in the summer, right? This is your last opportunity for 4 months, maybe 8 months, for you to relax and have fun. So do that, and then get your textbooks so that you have them in time for that first day. Take a look at Canvas for information about what you should be reading in those textbooks, but don't start too early, right? Don't forget to have fun.
Here's what I found on the web.
What? All right, is there, yes, the university bookstore does price match, and so yeah, you can always give them the Amazon price and they'll match it. All right, so another question: is there a different level of expectance from students as we are fully online? Yeah, from me there is. I mean, I expect students to work hard still, but at the same time, I'm fully understanding of the fact that you might be stuck at home caring for your younger siblings or maybe your children. Maybe you're working a job or something, and these are things that people have to do. Maybe you're working for your grandparents or helping your grandparents out, and you've got people that are immunocompromised and can't come into the campus for any reason. These are things that we absolutely understand, and so I'll definitely expect you to work hard, but we're totally, at least from me, I'm totally going to be reasonable when students tell me that, they've got this thing that they have to do and they can't come to class or whatever, and I'll be totally flexible there. And I really want to make sure enough content and enough work, right, has enough time for like flexible deadlines, right? So if I give you a week to do something, that should be more than enough time so you can start it when you've got that free time, as opposed to here's this thing, it's due tomorrow, you have to do it right away. I want to make sure that students can be flexible with their time, and I think that hopefully will work out for everyone. Okay, so any more questions? Maybe not. I'll spend a bit of time, because I do like to hear my own voice, but I'll spend a bit of time echoing another thing that I think Osama said that was really, really important, which is that you should find a mentor. And it's true. Talk to everyone. I think that was a really important piece of advice, because the closer you get, especially to your professors and TAs, in the early part of your undergraduate learning, the better off it's going to, the more payoff it's going to be down the line. I write students a lot of reference letters, and if I know those students really well, because they've come out and sought me out and asked me questions and talked to me about things, I can really tailor those reference letters for them. And that really helps when you're applying for things like graduate school or med school or dental school, wherever else people are interested in. Okay, so when are we going to be given direction on how to access our online lectures? That is a good question too. And I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that within the next 2 weeks or so, that's a long time frame, I'll be putting everything up on Canvas for my class and publishing that course. But I don't know what date. Like, really, it's somewhere in your OntarioTechU.net email account. You should have an email directing you to where your LMS is, where your courses will live, that sort of thing. And if it's not there, hopefully it'll be coming soon, because I know everything's a little bit different this year, and so hopefully all of the information you have will come to that official university OntarioTechU.net email account. So, I mean, don't worry too much, but in the next, week or so, absolutely should be getting some direction for that.